What's going on, guys? Finally doing a review on this custom up-armored fixed blade. This is one of their Menace fighters. This is a very unique, one-of-a-kind knife. In fact, this knife was made for a magazine for one of their layouts. This particular one has a zombie-style paint job on it. You can see basically we have a kind of a three-tone coloring on this. You have subdued skulls in the handle and blade. You also have like the blood splatters and the toxic green coloring all throughout as well. It's certainly interesting. It's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, which I understand. Not everyone likes this kind of stuff. It's really intricate, and as far as the coating goes, it held up very, very well under extreme use, and this knife was extremely used. But keep in mind, if you are interested in this particular knife by design and everything that has to offer, which it does have a lot to offer, you can get these with plain blades. You can get them in solid colors, you know, the canvas micarta scales. You can get pretty much any color you want. So it can be a very plain looking knife as well. You don't have to get it looking like this. This is just something different. I wanted to try something out that was a little bit more extreme looking. So that's where this particular paint job comes from, and the sheath that goes along with it also matching in the coloration. You see again subdued skulls everywhere, the blood splatter, that toxic green, and then kind of like a dark flat coyote earth type color in the background as well. So really interesting. I love this sheath. Now, if you keep the paint job completely separate in your mind, because a lot of people are going to look at this and go, ugh, but some of you are going to look at this and go, oh my god, that's awesome. Please consider this, you know, outside of what it's going to perform for you. What this knife actually has to offer has nothing to do with what it particularly looks like at the moment. So if this is not something you like as far as the looks of it, consider it, you know, picture it as plain black sheath, you know, with just a bare steel blade and like black micarta scales or something like that. All right, the purpose of the review is to talk about the functionality of a knife or whatever product you're actually reviewing, and, you know, along with some facts and some opinions from your personal usage. So I know, I'm mentioning this because I know this particular paint style or coating will turn a lot of people off, and I wouldn't want to turn you off from this particular type of knife just because of that. So understand that this is very unique and rare, that this knife comes completely plain and boring if you're interested. But anyway, I actually want to read you the paperwork that came with this knife, because it's going to give you some specs on it right away, as well as some details, and also I want to read the history of Up Armored and what they're all about, really. So I'm just going to leave this in the background, and I'm going to read this information to you first. So first of all, it is a custom Menace fighter. They have a couple different knives right now on their website, a couple different models. They may branch out and do more styles in the future, but right now there's only a few of them. This is the Menace. This particular one is very different in that the handles around it, a lot of them aren't quite sculpted like this. And I'm going to talk about this, you know, with later in the review, talking about my personal experience with the knife, as well as the tang is a pointed tang. It's usually rounded. So those are the major differences than what you might find as like one of their standard Menace fighters on the site right now. But anyway, the steel is 1095 chrome vanadium. The steel is 0.17 inches as far as the stock is concerned. Fully rounded spine on this as well. We have a full flat ground blade with a convex edge. Total length is 11.75 inches. The blade length is 6 inches on the nose. Canvas micarta handle scales. The sheath is Kydex lined with holster grade leather. And I'm going to talk about that specifically because this is huge. I wish every single Kydex sheath had a leather lining on the inside. I can't begin to tell you how awesome that is. Well, I can begin to tell you about that. I'll talk about it in just a minute when I get into more of my experience with this knife. Anyway, the finish is a Duracoat. This particular one is called Zombie Slayer with blood splatter. Again, very unique, and no, it's not going to be for everyone's taste. But again, I want to do something that's a little bit different. I thought it was cool. I know most of you, at least the vast majority of you, will prefer something more plain. Or at least solid colors instead of this. This is definitely a busy looking knife. If I were to get this one again, I actually like this style. I think it's kind of cool, but I wouldn't get it on the blade next time if I could do it different. And probably not on the sheath either. Maybe just the handle scales, just to be something unique. I was kind of tired of just black, Just constant, just black, black, black. Everything's black on knives now. And it's really not a big deal, but I just want to do something different. So anyway, here's the notes that he had sent to me. Wrote, Jeff, this is one-of-a-kind knife I made for the magazine Combat Tactics. The handles have been rounded off instead of my normal chisel effect. I've also started offering Cerakote as an option for some knives. However, the Cerakote is only available in solid colors. 1095 chrome vanadium is the same steel K-bar has been using for over 50 years. As you can see, I make my sheath with screws instead of rivets. Look at that. This is done so you can take the sheath apart for cleaning and drying if needed. Lining on yours is holster grade leather. However, I am making most of my sheaths at this time with an automotive grade synthetic suede. I will have several knives up for sale on my site by 8/6/13, which obviously is long past, so you should have some more available now. I will supply a free patch and lanyard to any of your viewers who purchase a knife and make mention of cutlerylover. So you've seen those before. The Up Armor patches are very cool. I keep one in my bag. So if you happen to mention the cutlerylover name if you're buying this particular knife, you will also get a free patch and a lanyard. So besides that, I want to just quickly read the history of Up Armor. This is kind of like their biography, so you know what they're all about, in case you haven't gone on the website and read this stuff. He wrote, out of necessity, I started camo coating my own sniper equipment about 17 years ago. Other sniper on my team, as well as other police department snipers, took notice of my ability, and I began working on their equipment. As my skill improved, I began developing my own patterns, and soon after, my skull patterns emerged. Obviously, being a law enforcement officer, guns and knives are part of my basic tools of the trade, and myself, like many fellow officers, have a passion for both. It wasn't long before cops, military personnel, and collectors started sending their knives to me for Coat, and Up Armored was born. After working on many high-end knives, I decided to try my own hand at knife making. After a few years of making and giving away more knives than I can remember, in 2011 I added custom knives to my Up Armored lineup. As a part-time maker, I turn out around 25 knives a year. The majority of my knives are tactical and bushcraft style knives made from 1095 chrome vanadium, which I get a hair-popping sharp edge with a convex edge. Duracoat or Cerakote firearm finish is applied to my knives in a variety of colors and patterns by hand, and each knife is unique in its own way. My sheaths are constructed by lining Kydex with leather or commercial synthetic suede. This both eliminates scratches and rattles associated with Kydex. Although some of my knives never venture far from a customer's shelf or drawer, many have their way into the hands of our fighting men and law enforcement officers all around the world. And that is from William Welling, and he is the owner of Up Armor Knives. So first of all, very big thank you to William for your personal service to America. Appreciate that. All soldiers, law enforcement officers, fire department, anyone who serves to help keep the people safe in America, I salute you, and I always have. I really, really appreciate the time and effort you put into helping American people and people abroad as well. So anyway, I did want to read that to you. I thought it was kind of important to see where these people are actually coming from when they're producing these products. There's not a full-time knife maker who has a capability of making, 300-400 knives a year, whatever the case may be. This is a part-time knife maker. I have to say, from using this knife and seeing some other work of his as well, I'm very impressed. I would be hard-pressed to be able to make a product just like this, given the same situation. He has a lot of experience in tools and weaponry for many, many years, and in venturing and making his own knives, I have to say I am extremely, extremely impressed. This compares very likely to a lot of knives in the market, particularly for the same price range. This is about a $400 knife. It depends on what options you may get. It could raise the price or lower the price a little bit. But it's definitely on par, in my opinion, with other $400 custom fixed blades. It's not going to be for everyone. Not everyone can afford it, and there's a lot of people who can afford it and just has no interest in paying that much money for a knife. However, if you are in the market for something like this, regardless of how this particular paint job looks, I do think this is a very good performing knife. A couple details about this particular knife that I like the most is the ergonomics on this handle is almost the best ergos I've ever felt, ever. And there's a particular reason why. Not just because it's rounded, it's canvas micarta, but it's sculpted in just a way where you have this palm swell right here. You can see how this kind of thickens up right here, and it dips down on the top and bottom. This particular shape, where it almost looks like 3 balls, is very, very comfortable. I've seen this in a lot of different fixed blades, more so in the custom realm than I have seen on production knives, but it offers extremely good ergonomics. Besides that, keeping a flare at the base as well as over here by the tang also ensures a nice solid grip. I don't feel like my hand is going to move up or down. It almost feels like I'm holding a little ball in the palm of my hand because of this palm swell. It is extremely, extremely comfortable. And the fact that this particular one, he did go back and sculpt and round all this out. So it's very, very comfortable in your hand. I can't, off the top of my head, if I really thought about it, I might be able to find one or two, but off the top of my head, this has to be the most comfortable fixed blade I've ever held. And, you know, in reverse grip as well. It is extremely, extremely ergonomic and extremely secure in my hand. This grip is amazing. It's really, really good. Besides that, there's a choil in front of the ricasso, so you can choke up for finer work, which I did do. Now, as you guys know, I really beat the hell out of this knife. I mean, I did not baby this at all. And the reason being is because it's an expensive custom fixed blade. And most people, not all, there's plenty of you who don't, but most people who buy knives for $400, $500, $600 collect them. You show them, God forbid there's a little scratch on it. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to really, really test this knife. All right, I wanted to see if it can go through its paces, just like you would a $30 or $40 fixed blade. You beat the crap out of a $30 fixed blade without thinking about it. But you put a $400 or $500 knife in someone's hands, you might not chop as hard. You might not, you know, start prying with it like you might with a $20 or $30 fixed blade. So it was important to me to really, really test something that was very collectible and very expensive. And I have to say I was highly impressed. With all the abuse that I threw at this knife, believe it or not, it is still sharp. It's not hair-popping, whittling sharp anymore, but it's still sharp. All right, it still performs after all of that use, and I did not touch this up at all. There is one major flat spot in the blade, and now from here, you could see where it is right here, and that is where I hit that rock. And as I've mentioned, that's user error. That is of no fault of the knife, and I don't care what knife you have on the planet, the edge will not hold up against a direct blow from a hard swing at a rock. Okay, so that is not to be, you know, it's not the knife's fault whatsoever that had basically flattened out. What's nice is because this is 1095, it did not chip out. Whereas if I had some harder stainless steels, even some tool steels, if this blade was D2 or 01 or perhaps like an S30V or something of that nature, I would very, very much expect that to completely chip out. I might have a little piece missing all the way up to the top of that edge. So because of the 1095, it really did save this edge in a realistic survival type situation where, I mean, I had fatigue. I was chopping and swinging and batoning through this knife until my arms were so sore that I really didn't have as much control as I did before. And if we're using this in some type of camping situation or some type of outdoor situation, you're going to get a lot of fatigue and you're going to find yourself not being as accurate and not being as careful as you were that first 5 minutes of using your knife. All right, we can all go out in the woods, we can all be in that type of situation, and you know, of course you go to baton and everything's good and grand, but look, after an hour and a half or 2 hours of batoning and slashing and chopping and swinging, you're tired. It doesn't matter if you're, you know, He-Man or little lady, you're gonna be beat, okay, and every time you go to chop into that wood, you're gonna be completely missing, and it's just, you're all over the place. In that particular instance, I happened to catch it on film. That's what happened. I was tired and beat up, my arms were sore, and I happened to miss and I hit a rock. Well, that's a very realistic situation, but it's nice to know that the blade had flattened a little bit as opposed to chipped out. So that can be sharpened out very, very easily. Besides that, the rest of the blade is still nice and sharp. There are little imperfections in the edge, which can easily be sharpened out. I did a lot of prying. The tip had dented in. It flattened slightly, as you can see, not quite as pointy, but again, dented, did not snap. That is a huge thing. I can sharpen that out. In fact, I can also come down the spine and get a nicer point as well if I need to. But this really did hold up quite nicely to the abuse that I threw at it, because I did abuse it. I went past its normal, expected performance, and I literally abused the knife, and it didn't break. It never failed on me. So I've always been happy with 1095. It's been a great performing steel. A lot of different companies, as mentioned, K-Bar does use it. There's plenty of other companies that use it in their fixed blades because it's a good steel. It's a great steel. Now in this particular case, we have this this coating. Now my one concern was, how easily is it going to rub off? And with all the batoning and everything, you could see the paint coloring go onto the wood. I showed that in some of the test videos, but overall this finish did stay on quite nicely. You can see where it started to chip off just a little bit there. And of course, across the edge, it got a little bit jagged. There's another little chip right there taken out. But overall, it's held up very nicely. Now in this particular case, it's decorative. It's got this zombie type theme to it. If you were to get just a solid color like a black or a coyote brown or something of that nature, and you wanted it for the specific purpose of keeping this 1095 from rusting, which would be why you may want a coated blade. Maybe for other reasons, if you are actually in the military or some kind of law enforcement situation, you might want it for anti-glare purposes or other literally tactical reasons. But for most of us, a coating on this type of steel is really just to protect it. It's to seal in those steel pores so that they do not get moisture and they don't get any kind of damage and rusting from use. So I can tell you that this held up very nicely as far as the coating goes. So ergonomics are great. The blade length, full 6 inches, is going to give you a lot of capability. It's not as good of a chopper as a large knife. That's to be expected. It does not have the heft. As far as blade to handle like weight ratio, the balance point is right underneath. Actually, it's right here. Teetering a little bit, but you can see about where it is, right underneath where the handle and blade meet. You do want a blade heavy knife for chopping, so it's not necessarily the best chopping blade out there, but for its size, it fares very nicely. There are better knives out there specifically for chopping. What I used this mostly for was batoning, and I batoned the hell out of some wood with this. I couldn't even tell you how much actual wood I split. Probably maybe 2 quarts of wood, which is a lot to just baton by hand. It's a lot of wood, and it's held up very, very nicely for that. There is kind of a wedge effect. The Convex Edge is very, very superior to a lot of different types of grinds, some flat grinds, even some convex grinds. It's basically the old school Appleseed grind, but we do have a full flat on most of the blade. So you get this kind of, convex edge that bites in, but it's a little bit fat right behind the very edge. So what's happening is you get this little bit of a wedge effect. So it does actually aid in the purpose of batoning through wood. So as far as just basically chopping, get yourself a better knife for that. But if you're going to be using this for batoning in a military type scenario, I would imagine you are doing some prying here and there. I don't have personal experience with that. I'm not in the military. But as far as using this blade for prying, if need be, I would be very confident in doing so. I don't have that concern of the blade actually snapping. I would imagine this would probably literally bend, or not kink, but it would get a slight bend in it before it would actually snap. That is the advantage of having somewhat of a softer steel. You don't get the edge retention as you would some of the higher grade stainless steels out there, but you do get the rigidity, and you do get that overall toughness of the fact that it is going to bend instead of snap. So I do like that. As far as the handle, it's attached by these like open rivets, which is cool. It's nice. It gives you the option, if you want to, you can feed paracord through here and form somewhat of a lanyard guard to keep this in your hand if you're really doing some heavy chopping and hacking and stuff like that. I don't particularly like lanyards attached to me anymore because I did have an incident where I almost cut myself. I did slip, not with this particular knife, but a different fixed blade. I did slip off and I let go of the knife, and because it was attached to me by a lanyard, it swung and almost cut me. So I have mixed feelings with that. It could be good or bad, just depends on the situation. As far as the pommel here, I did slam this into some wood just to see what it'd feel like, and believe it or not, it's extremely comfortable. These pointed pommels, I mean, there's a lot of things you can call them glass breakers. Sure, anything that comes to a point like that would be effective in breaking glass. You call them skull crushers, and yes, if you were to get into a fight and your life is dependent on your knife in your hand, you could hit someone in the head with this, and I'm sure it would crack their skull. Are you going to go around cracking people's skulls open with the pommel of your knife? No, probably not. But hey, at least with this one you have the option, right? if need be. I don't know, it's more decorative than anything else, but it is cool. It does add to the overall look and theme of this particular knife. As far as the sheath is very, very well constructed. Overall, the Kydex is good. The belt loop works great. I did carry this on the belts. It's large, it's robust, but it's not too large. It does fit this particular knife. This does flare out the Kydex, so you do have enough grip on this. It is not going to come out. It is completely secure. And as mentioned, I did find that this leather lining, although he mentions in the future they're probably going to be suede, some automotive grade suede, but having a softer material in here, it definitely overcomes any kind of problems or issues people have with Kydex. The biggest thing is the rattling, and everyone knows this. If you got Kydex sheaths and you don't have a completely perfect dead-on fit, you get that rattle noise, which is annoying. Very annoying. And in a real tactical situation, if you happen to be a soldier, police officer, what have you, that's not good. You don't want to be making noise. You want to be quiet and stealthy, right? But more purposely, for our reasons, besides being annoying and rattling, it doesn't scratch or mar your blade. So, I mean, if you're someone who really uses the heck out of your knives, it's not a big deal. But if you're someone who's kind of weird about rub marks and stuff, because a lot of Kydex sheaths, particularly from people who homemade make them and they don't fit them properly, or even I've had production knives where the Kydex sheath actually scratches the blade because it rubs in certain areas. Something like this, lining your sheath with a soft material like that, it doesn't damage your knife at all. It's completely quiet and soft. Retracting and putting this knife back into the sheath is a breeze. It feels very comfortable. It's a very snug fit. It's almost like pressure fit because the Kydex actually flares out and goes back, obviously. What keeps this knife in is this curve right here on the handle scale. But I really, really like the line sheath. I would love to see pretty much every custom sheath come like this, and I would love to see a production company start doing this if possible. Yes, it adds costs. Yes, it's more on assembly. I don't know all the details as to how much extra that really would cost, but man, what a difference. I mean, I'm sold. I'm completely sold on lined Kydex with either suede or leather. It's awesome. In fact, speaking of which, in the near future, I'm gonna get a custom holster and possibly some custom sheaths that's Kydex with leather wrapped exteriors because they look really nice. But having the interior done, what a difference. If you guys out there make knives and you make your Kydex sheaths, please experiment with this because I think it's amazing. It's awesome. So anyway, the sheath is functional. The sheath works. All right, the design is very good. The knife is functional. The knife works. The design is very good. Like I said, paint job aside, this is a fantastic custom fixed blade. And I would highly recommend this to anyone who is in the market for this particular type of fixed blade. If you do have a use for this, I can say you definitely can rely on this particular one. It is also very cool for collectability purposes, but it's one of those knives that it costs a lot of money, and yeah, there's people who can collect them. It's kind of like Bussy knives. There's a few other semi-production companies out there, maybe even some Strider fixed blades, some Chris Reeves fixed blades out there, where people are buying them to collect them because they're cool. But at the end of the day, you can use these things. You can use them all day long and feel very confident in using them because they are great functional tools. So I am very happy with it. I love the knife. This particular one was going to be given away in a contest, and the winner had never ever contacted me to date, never responded, nothing like that. So I'll probably end up selling this. I'm going to do a sale video very soon, and I'll sell it for a steal of a price. So hopefully I can pass on the torch to someone else. Someone else can really enjoy this. So that's it, guys. Thanks for watching. Thank you very much for your time. I look forward to all the comments. Of course, if you could figure out how to post a comment and or reply to someone else's comment. I know all the changes have been hard to deal with lately on YouTube, but so be it. We'll get through it just like every other time they changed it. But for now, thanks for watching, and I will see you soon. Take care.